Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Concern Podcast, where we unpack political, social, economic, and cultural stories shaping our world. I'm Emmanuel Taban, and on this section of our podcast, I want us to discuss about South Sudan. And to be specific, I want us to talk about one of the political tools that has been used so much by the President of South Sudan, His Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, and that is the obsession of issuing presidential decrees. Like on weekly or bi-weekly basis. For those who have been following strictly the politics in South Sudan, I think the main serious political instance that happens back home is the issuing of presidential decrees, and that has become so much popular. You see that every 2 weeks there is a new presidential decree issued. They either seeks to appoint a new person or just dismiss that. It has been used so much by the president of late. And so many people have been asking about the constitutionality of these presidential decrees. Like, where does the president get the powers to have all these? And also, some people have been asking about the impact of having these presidential decrees. The president just comes out and appoints a new person. You serve for less than a year, and then a new person comes in and starts serving in that position. It creates a tendency of having people who are not familiar in doing what they do because they need time to cope up with it. It doesn't really give so much time for someone to familiarize themselves with the portfolios that they are appointed to doing. So it has become so much that people start asking so many questions. One, about the constitutionality, but also about the impact of issuing these precurring presidential decrees. And in this video, I'm just gonna be talking so much about genuine reasons as to why presidents in so many countries or leaders in many countries issues presidential decrees. I'm gonna give you the most common reasons. And I'm not saying that maybe the one that the president is doing is not genuine. He could be having genuine reasons as to why he is doing that, but it is not open. So I'm just gonna give you many of the reasons as to why so many presidents issue presidential decrees, or why they sack their cabinet, why they dismiss officers, or even why they make some organizations in their political parties, or even within the cabinet, or in the military. Why does it happen in so many countries? I'm just going to give you some of these reasons, and perhaps the reason why the president makes his might fall under this. And the presidential decrees that the president has been issuing of late affects so many and different institutions and levels of government. One is the executive, where includes the president, the vice president, and all the other vice presidents, and then the ministers and their deputies. These decrees have been affecting the organ of government, the executive, where the president reappoints vice presidents, he dismisses ministers and appoints new ones. The decrees have been affecting the legislature as well, where the president goes in and appoints even members of parliament for constituency that are supposed to be elected directly by the people, but the president has power and goes on and appoints new members of parliament. These decrees have affected the judiciary, where the president goes and appoints or dismisses the judges and appoints a new one. It has affected the military, where the president goes and dismisses army generals and brings in new people that he feels are his loyalists. It has affected the National Security Service. It has affected even different levels of government, not only the state government, where the president dismisses and appoints governors, but also going as down as the county level, where the president appoints and dismisses the commissioners in different counties. And the most fun thing is that, when a president appoints, these people are not given to go through some public scrutiny procedures. In so many countries, the role of the president is just to appoint or nominate someone that he feels is good in serving in a position, and then this person goes through some procedures. He's taken to the one of the parliamentary committee for vetting, and when he is found qualified, then he goes and occupies that position. But We don't have that right now in the country. We don't have that in South Sudan. Once the president nominates or appoints you, you automatically goes and serve in that position without even going through any vetting in the parliament or whatsoever. That doesn't happen. So many people have been asking about the legality or the constitutionality of this president. So where does the president get all these powers that he appoints and dismisses at will? Where does the president? But I just want to tell you that the Transitional Constitution of South Sudan 2011 provides the president with such powers. Article 106 actually says that the president, with consultation with the first vice president and all other presidents, can consult and then come to an agreement and then make their appointment. It is provided Article 106 of the Constitution. But it seems like the procedures of using that article are not being followed, because at some point you feel that the government, and saying the government, because we all know that the peace agreement in South Sudan, the revitalized agreement on the resolution of conflict in South Sudan that was signed in 2018 in Addis, was a combination of so many political functions. We have the SPLM government, we have the opposition, we have the political detainees and other opposition political parties. They all comprise as part of that agreement. And therefore, if the president want to make like an appointment, he should have consulted members of that party, but that doesn't happen. So, but as I said, that in this video, I just want us to focus so much on the reasons why in so many countries presidents or leaders issue presidential decrees or dismisses members of cabinet or military or police service. Why do leaders do this? At what circumstances or in what situations does presidential decrees comes in? One of the things or one of the situations or reason why a leader issues a presidential decree or Republican decree is when there is a suspected coup plot. In so many countries, when a president realizes that maybe there is a coup plot that is being planned by maybe members of his cabinet or some top military officials, so what the president do in this situation is that they respond so swiftly into this in order to neutralize the threat. And what the president does is that he goes on and removes members of the military, the top military, who are actually associated with plotting the coup, or even some members of the executive, like the ministers, who he feels that are sympathizers to the coup plotters. So in this situation, the president goes in and issues presidential decrees, dismisses the military or those people that are associated with the coup. I'll give you an example. In 2012, there was a suspicion by the president of the Republic of South Sudan where he suspected the then deputy president or vice president Riek Machar of plotting a coup against his government. And that's why in 2013 he sacked his entire cabinet. So President Kiir sacked his entire cabinet in 2013 on the basis that there was an ongoing coup plot by Machar and other people, members of cabinet that were associated with him, but also some top military officials. So what he did at that time is that he sacked his entire cabinet as a way of neutralizing the threat. So this is a reason why, a president needs to issue a presidential decree or a reshuffle. This is a very genuine reason. And this happened in so many countries, not only in South Sudan. But I feel the reshuffle that was done in 2013 was a very genuine one, because I'm not confirming that indeed there was an attempt coup, but according to what the president said, he said there was an attempt coup. So I'm not talking on maybe confirming that indeed there was, but just on the basis of what the president said and why he issued the presidential decree or the cabinet reshuffle that happened in 2013. That was a very legitimate and genuine reason if I told the coup attempt was true. So this is one incident. And second of all, another instance where a president or a leader of a country issues a presidential decree is when he has realized that maybe members of his cabinet are underperforming or are incompetent. When a president, sometimes people can hype themselves and you feel that this person can really do their job. But when they get onto that position, playing that responsibility for months or so or years, you'll get to realize that this person is actually incompetent. He doesn't know what he is doing there. So on realization that this person is incompetent, what the president does is that he does a cabinet reshuffle. He removes that leader or that cabinet minister from that position and appoints a new person. That is another genuine reason why degrees should be issued. When someone is not performing, or when they are incompetent, or even when they are associated with some scandals in the country. So the government goes on and the president goes on and issue a Republican decree dismissing this person and appointing a new person. Very genuine reason. Another one also could be, and maybe just to give you an example on underperforming cabinet ministers or leaders. Last year in June 2024 in Kenya, especially when there was a finance bill that created a lot of tensions in the country, the young Kenyans asked that the president dismiss his entire cabinet simply because, one, most of his ministers were living an extravagant life. Most of them were seen incompetent, and therefore one of the issues beside the finance bill was that the people were asking for the government or President Ruto to dismiss his entire cabinet. And exactly, I think on July 11, the president of 2024, the president dismisses the entire cabinet. He dissolved it, sent everyone home with the exception of only the prime cabinet secretary. So he sent the entire cabinet home, and then he reappointed a new. So these are some instances where a presidential decree on reshuffling or dismissing or dissolving a cabinet can be done. When there is a cry from the people, when the people realize that the leaders that the president has actually appointed to serve them are not doing their job. So the president did that. So that's another incident. One more incident is, for instance, when the president has realized that in the ministries that the country has, there are actually some ministries that have overlapping responsibilities. In a situation where we have maybe two to three ministries that are existing, having almost similar responsibilities, and the country is grappling with the economic crisis. So what the president can do is that in order to reduce on finances that can be used to fund these ministries, so what the government does is that he goes on and dissolves some of these ministries and merge them. So the government goes and merge these ministries. For instance, back home in South Sudan, the revitalized agreement on the resolution of the conflict in South Sudan provided for over 32 ministries. And the most craziest thing that we have is that in these 32 ministries, we have so many ministries that actually have overlapping responsibilities. I'll give you an example. Why do we have a Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and a Ministry of Cabinet Affairs that have almost the same responsibilities, that is supposed to just keep the link between the cabinet and the legislature? We have these two ministries, and also we have a Ministry of Constitutional Affairs, and we have Ministry of Peace and Peace Building. Constitutional Affairs and Constitutional Affairs, I think, and then another one of Peace Building. Why do we have these two? We should have them all merged. We have a Ministry of Transport, and also have a Ministry of Roads and bridges. So in a situation where the president realized that we have these ministries existing that have overlapping responsibilities, so what the president does is that he dissolves these ministries, and therefore the people who are in these ministries, they are sent home. The ministers that lead them are either sent home or they are allocated new portfolios in these merged ministries. So this is another perfect or genuine instance where the president can issue a presidential decree relieving or dismissing members of his cabinet simply because there is so much waste of public fund going to fund ministries that have overlapping responsibilities. So what the president do is he merge them and send the other officers home. That is another reason why a cabinet reshuffle is done. But as I say, there are so many reasons, and these reasons could be for good or maybe for personal satisfaction. Some of the reasons why a president issues these presidential decrees could be because he has like personal interest in them. And one is that maybe the president might also issue a presidential decree when they are, or when they want to do, like they want to reorganize themselves. Maybe there is an election ahead of them. So what they do is that the president reorganizes his cabinet, the people that are close to him. He wants to bring people that can support him, that can support his manifesto, that when he goes out there and talk to people on why he should be elected, He has people that are competent that can express themselves. So what the government do, and this happens in most cases. In the last year, where the country heads towards an election, the president associates himself with people that he feels are loyal to him and people who he feels can help him actually deliver his mandate. So that's what happens. And for self-satisfaction, so there are people who are greedy, there are leaders who are greedy. What they do in some cases is that they do these reshuffles because they simply want to consolidate themselves in power. They want to consolidate themselves in power, and this happens because one, they want to bring people they feel they are so loyal to them to be close to them. I mean, you feel that maybe if a country is heading toward an election, for instance, and you have the fear of losing an election, and therefore you'd go and issue some decrease in maybe these independent government commissions, for instance, like an electoral commission, and then you put someone in there that you feel is going to favor you. You put someone in there. That's another reason, and that is for self-satisfaction. We have another reason is that a president could issue a presidential decree as an appeasement policy. For the case of South Sudan, there are so many people, there are so many other ethnic groups that are critical of the current regime. And what the president might do, I'm not saying in the case of South Sudan, but I'm just giving this as a general information. In other countries, what they do is that when the president has realized that there are so many maybe small ethnic groups that are against his government, so what they do is that they go and identify leaders who are so much respected to these ethnic groups. And what he does is that he goes in and tap these leaders and bring them to government as a way of appeasing those ethnic groups so that they don't be critical of his regime. So that is totally another way. It is a political strategy. It can be used as a political tactics to make this person stay in power for long, so that he doesn't face criticism from his opponent. The country doesn't go through some instability. But this also is another way of just delaying things. I mean, we all know that our country is in a transitional period where we're hoping that one day we can have an election someday, and we go to decide who's going to lead our country through ballot. But you can just do things to annoy the other person. When someone is removed from a position, he feels so embarrassed. And when this person has an influence out there, what they do is that they can simply go and defect, go to the boss, and then come back and fight the government. So in other countries, when someone just feels like they want to stay in power for long, they know that the best way they can stay in power for long is when they create some kind of instability in a country. And when there is so much instability in a country, of course, the president or leader of that specific country will go on to issue a state of emergency. And when there is a state of emergency issued, of course, a country runs without rule of law. The legislature is dissolved, the laws of the countries are dissolved, and the leader operates on their own will. They do whatever they want, and therefore it provides no ground for holding elections. And this makes the government or the regime stays in power for a very long time. So another reason why someone, maybe a leader of a country, is just issuing presidential decrees is because he wants to annoy their opponents, so that he takes the country into some instability that he can use to buy time and stay in power. So these are some reasons why a presidential decrees or Republican decrees are issued in so many countries. And this has been happening. I don't know exactly what the intent of the president is, why he is issuing these presidential decrees, but I hope that the reason why he is doing this would fall under one of the good reasons why presidential decrees are done. Maybe the president is just desperately looking for someone who can really serve the South Sudanese, a leader who can serve the people of South Sudan. Because I watched in one of the videos of President Kiir where he said the reason why he is dismissing people very consistently is because he's looking for a better person, and the moment he finds the best one, he'll just stick into him. That could also be another reason why the president is issuing. I'm not trying to to diminish his presidential power. I'm not trying to disagree with him, but I'm just trying to mention out what the ways of, what the situations where genuine presidential decrees can be issued. And it will be unfortunate if the intention of the president is to actually do or it's to just provide him by time and then be as a president. It doesn't make sense. If it is one that is meant to create better service for the people, if he is looking for a leader who can serve the people with dedication, so be it. That is good, and we have seen this happening for the last 4 years or so, that the country has been running on new people. Someone is appointed today, and then just after 2 weeks, then the government revokes his appointment or their appointment, and this person goes on, a new person comes in. The person even doesn't, has not familiarized themselves with how an entire ministry works. He's taken out. But also, the danger of having this, or the danger of running a country through these presidential decrees, is that it makes so many people to be, get into these roles with no intention of serving the people, but they can just go there and loot resources, because they know if they don't do that, very soon their time will come and they will be kicked out, just like the previous one. So what officials that are appointed under this situation do is that whenever they get appointed and get the chance to serve, have access to public fund and resources, what they do is that they take these resources for their own use, because they know that very soon they'll also be kicked out like the others. So it creates that trend in people that whenever they come in, they don't come with the intention of serving the people, but they're coming with the intentions to steal, because they know they are not going to stay there for quite long. And also, it makes the ministries, this department, not grow. It creates no expertise in this department, because every time we have new people who are not well versed with how this works, with how things are done. So in a case where we have someone who works, or people who works in a specific ministry or government institution or parastatal for quite a long time, they develop experiences, they develop the expertise, and therefore they get to know how to deliver services to the people. But in a situation where we have new people brought in every single year or every 5 months, then the ministries is run by people who are inexperienced. And if a ministry, a national ministry, is run by such people, then you don't expect results. We will always have a country that is lagging behind, simply because there are no expertise, there are no people. Experience takes time. It takes time for one to become an expert. It takes time for one to become a technocrat. And giving someone time plays a very important role in shaping one to become an expert. And when you don't give people that platform to perform things in a lengthy period, then they wouldn't develop that expertise, right? So it is good always to do that to people. So yeah, so I feel these are some of the reasons why genuine presidential decrees or Republican decrees or government reshuffles are done in so many countries. And if you feel this video is interesting, can you just put a comment down there and tell us also what the intent of the president could be? Does it fall under any of these that I've mentioned? Is it meant to, just take out unperforming government officials? Is it the president looking for someone who can really serve the people with heart? Is the president trying to consolidate himself in power? Is it using it as an appeasement policy to maybe appoint the people that he feels are critical of him, and that he can use that as a way of gaining support from them? Which one do you think is the reason why President Kiir is issuing this presidential decrees? Why? If you feel this video is interesting, as I said, please subscribe to our channel, and I can't wait to have you in our next video. And this remains the Concern Podcast, and I am Emmanuel Taban. Thanks for watching, and please leave a comment or subscribe.